Welcome everybody to the Cincinnati Razorback Room. My name is Dennis. I'm your host today at this great episode of Star Power Baseball. And what we're going to discuss today is one of the greatest teams in the history of the game, the 1906 through 1910 Chicago Cubs. One of the greatest dynasties of all time. And we'll be getting into that, among other things, tell you how you can get your Star Power Baseball cards. The 1906, 7, 8, and 10 Chicago Cubs, some of the greatest teams ever assembled in the history of the game of baseball. So kick back, turn it up, and enjoy the 1906 to 1910 Chicago Cubs on Star Power Baseball. These are the saddest possible words. Tinker to Evers to Chance. Trio of bear cubs and fleeter than birds, Tinker and Evers and Chance. Ruthlessly picking our gonfalon bubble and making a giant head into a double with words that are heavy with nothing but trouble. Tinker to Evers to Chance. Welcome to the immortal words of Franklin Pierce Adams, describing the double play combination of Joe Tinker, Johnny Evers, and Frank Chance, a trio of bear cubs enshrined in Cooperstown and immortalized in 1910 by a poem. And that's what we're going to talk about today on this video. We're going to work with maybe the greatest dynasty ever in baseball, certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And one of the things that we're going to work with today is this Chicago Cubs team from the 1906 to 1910. Now, I know that this is no longer valid. This was the 1908 Chicago Cubs team right here. But we're going to talk about, just briefly, one of baseball's greatest dynasties, and maybe, just maybe, baseball's most dominating team for a 5-year period. I don't know if any other team has ever posted the numbers that this team had posted. From 1906 to 1910, the Chicago Cubs won 4 National League pennants, came in second once, won 2 World Series, and were immortalized in poetry and hated throughout the baseball world and loved locally by Cubs fans, and are still remembered. And we're going to briefly talk about what made them average 106 wins per year for 5 seasons in a row, and only losing 47, a winning percentage of .692. That's unheard of, people. That's not happening today by any team, including the Dodgers. Not happening in the 30s with the Yankees, the 20s with the Yankees, the 50s with the Dodgers, the 60s with the Giants and the Dodgers, the 70s with the Reds. No team has ever done this except this team for a 5-year period. What made them so good? Well, all we can do is analyze the numbers. And when we talk about a dominating team, the postseason is such a crapshoot, guys. It is such a crapshoot. You get guys out there that have a day and they do it twice, and all of a sudden the best team doesn't always win the World Series. That's the way that baseball is. It's there to break your heart. It's there to make you feel great. But it is not always the best team that wins. This was the best team for 5 years. The only pennant that they failed to win in that 5-year period, believe it or not, was 1909. And the team in 1909 won 104 games in a 154 game season. And you got to remember there were ties and there were forfeits and rainouts and that stuff. But this team won 104, a 680 winning percentage, and finished 6.5 games behind the Pittsburgh Pirates, who never finished within 5 games of them except in 1908 during that 5-year span. The worst team that they had was a pennant winner, and it was 1908, where they won by 1 game over the Giants and the Pirates. But other than that, 1906, not even close. 1906, they won the pennant by 20 games ahead of the New York Giants. 1907, they won the pennant by 17 games over the Pittsburgh Pirates. 1908, by 1 game over the Giants and the Pirates. 1909, they came in second place. In 1910, they were back again with a 13-game lead over the Giants. This team dominated the National League like no other team in the history of baseball ever dominated a league. The pennant was over by September 1st with this Cubs dynasty, and a dynasty it was. On your screen now, you can see our cards of these guys, and I'm going to start with the 1906 team. The solidity of this team, Johnny Kling is the catcher, okay? Now I'm going to put up the 1907 team. I'll put that up right there. Johnny Kling is again the catcher. The 1908 team, and let's find him. Johnny Kling right there is again the catcher. And the 1910 team, since we didn't make the 1909 team, we decided that 104 wins was not good enough since you didn't win the pennant. But that 1910 team, and if you'll look once again, Johnny Kling is there. Catching, 5 years, same catcher. Infield, Joe Tinker, Johnny Evers, Frank Chance, and then they pulled in Harry Steinfeld in 06, 07, 08, 09, and 10, and they had the same infield for 5 years. Outfield shifted a little bit, had a few changes here and there, but it was solidified by Jimmy Sheckard, a solid outfielder, as well as wildfire Frank Schulte. The pitching staff seldom changed, and I mean seldom changed. Let's look at the 1906 pitching staff. On the pitchers, we have Fred Beebe, we have Mordecai Brown, we have Ed Rulbach, Jack Feister, and Orville Overall. And Jack Taylor. Those are your big pitchers on the 1906 team. Let's pull up the 1907 team. We have Three Finger Brown. We have Carl Lundgren again, Ed Rulbach, Jack Feister, Orville Overall, Jack Taylor, all there again. That's 06 and 07. Let's pull up 1908. 1908, Three Finger Brown, Mordecai Brown. Once again, Ed Rulbach, Jack Feister, Orville Overall, and Jack Taylor was gone at this time. 1910, let's check out 1910. Once again, Mordecai Three Finger Brown. We have Overall, Feister, Rulbach, and those guys were amazing. Look at the ERAs on this guy. Look at Three Finger Brown right here. This is one of his bad years, 1910, he had a 186, okay? Rulbach right here is down at 312, 179 for Feister, 268 for Orville Overall. That's 1910. They lost the World Series to the A's. Let's go to 1908, where they beat the Tigers in the World Series. Here you have Rulbach at 203, Feister at 200, Overall at 192, and Mordecai Brown at 147. 147 ERA, guys. 147 ERA. But that's not his best year. Let's jump ahead to 1907. Okay? Three-Finger Brown, 139 ERA. Look at this ERA. Look at this, okay? Rulebach over here, 169. Feister, 115. Overall, 168. Taylor, 329. He's the weak link. But let's look at this with Feister with a 115. And I'm going to pull it up on Baseball Ref. That is the 1907 Cubs. I'm going to pop them up here so I can check them out real quick. 1907 Feister with his 115 ERA. Feister pitched a total of 195 innings. 195 innings. Today, this guy would be making 40 mil, man. I'm telling you. What makes this team so great? Well, it starts with that pitching staff. Over those 5 seasons, the pitching staff ERA for the whole pitching staff was under 2.5. They averaged outscoring their opponents 5-2. That was the average score in their games. They led the league for 5 years. Over that period of time, they led the league in runs scored, and they led the league in fewest runs allowed. That has never been done since. The Yankees have come close in the 50s when they had the 49, 50, 51, 52, and 53 champs and won 5 in a row. They came close, but they did not dominate like this team. Do you realize that during the Yankee dynasty of the 50s, they never won 105 games? They were 90-game winners. Period. 93, 94, 95-game winners. This team averages 106 wins per year. Never been done before. Will probably never, ever be done again. This was the original dynasty of baseball. Maybe the most dominant dynasty of baseball that we ever have seen in the history of the game. My hat's off to Tinker and Evers and Chance, and I love the poem. I love it. It's just one of my favorite things. And I'm going to leave it with you here. Let's go back and look at them again. And I'll just read it one more time for you because it's awesome. These are the saddest of possible words. Tinker to Evers to Chance. Trio of bear cubs and fleeter than birds, Tinker and Evers and Chance. Ruthlessly pricking our gonful and bubble, making a giant hit into a double with words that are heavy with nothing but trouble. Tinker to Evers to Chance. And when you add Mordecai Brown and Jack Feister and Orvie Overall, oh, good grief. This is a dynasty. Now, forever. The 06 to 1910 Chicago Cubs. My hat's off.